Hello, and welcome to this Propellerheads Reason synthesizer programming tutorial featuring the Subtractor Polyphonic Synthesizer. I'm your host, Marcus Unlimited. This tutorial will be focused on Waveform 5, its official name, which has similarities to a sawtooth wave but with higher harmonics and a richer, darker spectrum of tonal capabilities. So, let's get started. In this particular case, we are going to actually go into, as we've kind of been doing with the previous examples, ideally what this waveform can do probably at its best, so to say. There's an unlimited number, haha, of all kinds of different inner workings of different waveforms that we can achieve. However, I want to go right to where this particular game runs at its best, so to say. So, off screen from the tutorial, I'm clicking right click and I am scrolling down the selection list and choosing reset device, and this gives us the initialized patch, and make sure that all of our parameters are brought back to their starting point position that we're most familiar with. So we're always starting from the same place, reducing the surprises that we might encounter while programming, and we can go right to what we want to do. So we end up, of course, with that to start with, and I'm thinking about, as we go into what the 5 waveform will do at its best, and let's just bring this second oscillator up to that as well. The reason we're working these tutorials from a directive of having the same waveform in both oscillators, and of course we're doing different pitch spans and different modulation routings between the two, it's just because that way we can identify exactly what this waveform does before we get into anything of the unimaginable complexities of, it's one thing going 5 times 5, but when we start saying 5 times 32, 16, 17, we end up with an almost untraceable impact on the resultant sound. So the first thing we want to find out is what can 5 do when handled properly. So this is probably going to be a light, thin, phased sound. There we go. Because we don't have any pitch separation at all, they're in the same octave, basically producing the same tone, and they're not cross-multiplying or subtracting yet. So this type of waveform 5, since it has similarities to a sawtooth, but with more harmonic overtones and a darker complexity to its sawtooth-like properties, it immediately makes me think of this great patch from the linear arithmetic era of synthesizers, a la the D-50 by Roland. And it was this patch called Soundtrack, which got a little bit overused, but in a way, it shouldn't have gone completely away. It was just so overused because it was a really awesome thing. And what this is primarily going to be built upon is actually the tuning and then letting all these overtones as they mix together work together to create this amazing sound. So we talked about, let's turn on our second oscillator, and we talked about our, so there's our thin phasing. We talked about our, normally we would do something to fatten the synth by bringing the cents apart and all that, but let's not worry about that for a moment. We might come back to that. Most importantly about the soundtrack is to create a distance between the two that is a chromatic 7, or a in major scale, fifth apart. So here it sounds like I'm playing 2 keys. I'm actually playing 1 note. And so it's bringing out 1 tone at 0 semitones away from its requested pitch. And this one's coming out 7 semitones above, or a perfect fifth, so to say. So now let's put a little, since this is going to be one of those soundtrack pads, but with a special subtractor touch. There we go. We get a nice. Okay, so we already hear it's doing some neat stuff. We're really going to go places with it, though. So the first thing that I'm thinking that I want to hear is I want the attack to be softer, but I don't think I want it to be this way. I'm probably going to reach out for the filter envelope, but let's hear what happens. So yeah, we back off it, and it's going to be smarter to have the filter envelope handle that. So I'm going to bring this up, I don't know, about somewhere in the 40s there. And we're going to back off and soften our filter envelope attack there. Let's hear what we get. I know I'm probably going to want some more decay so it doesn't, I want it to decay suddenly, but not too much so. Okay, a little too extreme. Let's back. In fact, let's get rid of the velocity on the filter envelope. I don't want any surprises there. Pretty good. In fact, this can be a lot more dramatic. Okay, it's sounding pretty nice. I think we can actually, I want to get just a little bit more as far as we can go with this without getting too ridiculous. Now, the brightness, because Waveform 5 has a little bit of a darker complexity than a standard sawtooth, old school sawtooth, I want to hear what happens when we bring in the lower 24-pole filter, and it should be, there we go, that's what I was hoping for. It should soften up the top part. Excellent. Softens up the top part and really brings out those dark, rich overtones behind the bright front end that Waveform 5 has. Now, we talked about keeping consistent with our idea of if we're working with higher pitches of our two oscillators, we're going to go to oscillator 1 and work with everything in the up. Just a way to remain consistent and think immediate about where everything's at. And then I'm going to take my lower oscillator, see how this is at the 0 and this is at the 7 semitone wise. And I'm going to drop the cent on this to 5, nice and even, so we know where everything's at, as a nod to the I wonder if they did this on purpose, the D-50 or the D-550, because this sound sure likes that fifth waveform there. Now it's interesting. It's important to think about using patches at their best by considering a few musical theory concepts when you're involved in your arrangement, even if you're not using notation and everything. But that last chord I played, there's a lot of patches, like one of the ones we did earlier that had a lot of thin aspects to it in a previous tutorial, and a lot of little waving little gemstone reflections going around because of a very subtle FM modulation. So I'm actually going to play an orchestral split, so to say. So I'm going to go 1-5 on the low, and then I'm going to add the third in the upper. Not too cool with this patch, and I'll tell you why. The patch, because we're splitting the semitones here, it's already orchestral. So this means just straight, tight organ style chords where your hand is really, in fact, I remember this chord. It reminds me of a great Ryuichi Sakamoto tune from back in the day called Thousand Knives. Look it up on YouTube or Spotify, it's a great track. And I think it was an E flat, so. And then it goes on and does some other stuff, but that particular chord is an E flat built over a G, and it just sounds great with this. I'm playing it all in that one center middle octave, and I don't think that this patch lends itself to that orchestral split. The orchestral split is going to be better for thinner and more straightforward sounds, or if they have little small artifacts, you want to spread those artifacts out so you would voice it like a string. I don't recommend voicing something like this like strings. The keyboard is already taking every note we do and adding a fifth above it, so we have a lot of richness happening when we just play nice tight chords. So there's an octave I've added to that. So now I'm hearing that we could use, I would like some kind of, I want a little bit of a pitch envelope to, at the onset of this patch, kind of widen it out a little bit and lean into it a little bit more. So this looks like it's very close to what we want just as it is. But I bet I'm probably going to want to reverse this through. Okay, so that's a nice almost like a French horn mouthpiece attack. But you know what? I want the exact opposite, and I want it a little more subtle. So here's our subtlety. we're increasing the length that it has time to do that decay before it arrives at just the two tones as we were hearing them. And I want it to go the other direction. Instead of ramping down like that, I want it to go up like that. So we're going to do this. And I'm intentionally kind of playing the same chords. I was kind of thinking about in these tutorials, I should probably sort of replay the same progression so that you hear what our changes are doing instead of letting the, any sort of performance aspect, distract from what's going on. So here's our chords again. Now, because of the complex harmonic overtones in this fifth waveform, I really recommend that we don't do too much with it. I'm gonna touch one knob just to show you why a sine wave is way more suited to frequency modulation. So if I go up here to our FM, instead of it having a subtle effect, it really starts getting strange quickly. And you could, if you wanted to make some just gruesome dubstep stuff or something like that, you could get in there and work with something like that, get rid of our release and all that stuff. But we're going for a soundtrack pad nouveau, a la the Subtractor. So let's get rid of this frequency modulation, because this already has so many rich harmonics in its frequency spectrum. The 5 waveform there. So beautiful. So, and you can hear I'm just doing a weak little, funny little mouth beat there, and it already, it's like the body of the track is full. That's one of the great things about this sound, is all you need is a cool little slippery, slidey Moog bass style thing with a little portamento on it, and just a really simple drum track. Okay, so just giving you an idea, cool way to run through an idea too, is just kind of hum it through a little bit, So this is very close to what I want, and I think that our now that we've followed our rule about not touching the resonant filter, I could hear this doing a beautiful, bringing a little bit of a choral aspect to the hang-on after the filter envelope closes. So I'm going to come up there. I don't want to bring it up past it, but that's a little too obvious. Let's try about 40 or 38. Less. Now, there's another version of this patch that you could do. I'm probably going to hit undo and take this right back up to where it is. But this is also something that has a neat effect when we lose the brightness. So we're going to back off the frequency here and get it below our resonance so that we have this really cool dry, not dry, but dark snapback, say. That's fantastic on a track behind other things. Try it sometime. You'll know you'll hear what I'm talking about, where you have a nice incoming filter envelope, a spread there, and it's leading up. It's about ready to do the turnaround at bar 4 to the 1. Brings you right in there. Very nice. Okay, so, but I like it where it was, so I'm just going to make sure here we're on screen. I'm going to click undo, and there we go. We're right back to where we were, which was a place I liked. Okay, so this synthesizer tutorial, a lot more simple than what we've worked with previously, because we're working with a waveform that has so much going on harmonically already. We don't want to do too much to it. I'm going to add one more thing. Now, our tail end here sounds fantastic with nothing happening effect-wise, This isn't the official way you would add effects in a track. You would go up to the mix through the send and return and apply it through the mixing board. However, what we're going to do here is just so we see exactly what it is and how it's interacting. I'm going to come down here to I'm right-clicking, choosing Effects, and coming down to the RV7000 Mark II. And there we go. And I'm going over to I'm going over here to my browser, and I'm keeping that zoomed on screen there. So you don't need to see this too much. I'm just typing the word film, hitting return. It's going to do a quick search, and it grabs the beautiful film score patch, and I'm bringing that in, dropping it in, and now soundtrack. Okay, cool. So the RV7000, once we get the body of our car, should only be added after the engine and the underwriting frame of this subtractor patch is running like a Lamborghini here in my garage, you know what I mean? So if you've seen that video, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, this is my garage, and the engine of this customized Lamborghini here is running pretty nice, and we just put this nice shiny body on it here with the RV7000 Mark II. And we have some pretty sweet soundtrack effects. I'm just going to play a few inversions here to let you hear in other octaves, but because there's such a spread of the pitches happening because of the unusual semitone spread, picking up a fifth every time we play a one, so to say, it's probably going to, lose its magic as it starts getting a little too high in pitch there. I expected that actually to happen a little bit sooner, to where it starts to kind of lose some of what it is, so to say. But I think it's the magic of the darker aspects of a sawtooth and the richer harmonics in that the darkness that the 5 waveform has, as opposed to a regular sawtooth. If we were up here with a regular sawtooth in these settings, it's going to sound, and you might want this for some tracks, it's going to sound pretty corny. It's going to sound pretty corny, but it kept a lot of its actual usable beauty here. That's fantastic there. And I have this too. Remember, I have this set. It's volume-wise, it's in the face, and it's matching my narration here and everything. But this back in a track, I'm going to pull this back. If we had this. So I'm just going to hit undo to take our volume back up there. Absolutely beautiful. So we have a demo of some of the best properties of Waveform 5 brought out in this really cool soundtrack. Linear arithmetic nod, special nod out there to the amazing D-50, and even more amazing that we have this one synthesizer, the most underrated device in Reason, in my opinion. All the devices in Reason are spectacular, but this thing is probably the most underrated. And remember, I'm creating these patches and really putting them in the face there as we listen to it. But these things, on top of other things, brought into combinators, doing little moves here and there that are being revealed through these tutorials. Wow, really take things to the next level. Okay, and that next level is an unlimited place. So you are unlimited. We are using an unlimited device. The Subtractor Unlimited Polyphonic Synthesizer, Marcus Unlimited. Have a wonderful remainder of this day or evening whenever you're tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.